How's everybody doing? This is Captain Brian Brown with FishingHike.com, Fishing Net Guide Service. And I've got your KentuckyLake.com tip of the week this week. And it's going to revolve around when to throw your Texas rig worm, your Shaky Heads, and some of these new Freestyle Jig Heads. Get a lot of questions, people, well, why do you throw this one there, and why are we throwing this one here? And so I'm going to try to go over a little bit of why I throw, which one's where, and what I throw on them. First one's going to be your tried and true Texas rig. Probably everybody and their brother's throwing one. If you've bass fished at all, you've thrown a Texas rig worm. Out here on the Tennessee River ledges, they've caught so many big fish. I don't think anybody could keep track on how many big fish these things have caught. They've been around forever and a day, and the guys really like to throw. Guys really get a hold of it when the fish are getting a little lethargic and they're looking for a real big presentation. You know, your 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, heck, 14-inch worms. Couple that with a big hook on it, and anywhere from a 5/16 all the way up to a 3/4 ounce weight. Throw it out there and drag it on the ledges, and just a number of big fish been caught on it. The other place this is good too is obviously down in the grass, because with the bullet weight you can pull that through the grass down. You get down in the lower end of the lake where there's you got hydrilla and stuff. That will definitely come through that grass a lot better than Jig Head's going to. The other place this really shines out here, and I've got this one pegged right now, is in the brush piles. And we're in July and August. We're kind of the dog days of summer have set in, and a lot of these fish will start using brush piles, especially big fish. And a Texas rig worm will come through that brush a whole lot better than any football head or any other jig's going to that you're going to use a worm on. And what I like to do then is I like to have it somewhat pegged. I still want it to run loose like this, but I'll have it about 6 inches, maybe 8 inches, where I'll put a peg on it. So when I work that worm up through that brush pile and I bring that weight up there, and all of a sudden I can get that weight to fall over the edge of the brush, but that worm still hangs on that side. I can kind of shake it and just get a little more action out of that worm, rather than having that weight right up next to it, and then as soon as I pull over it falls off. I can pull it real slow and get that worm to catch, and yet let that weight come down the other side of it, and that fish can grab that worm and swim off a little bit with it. Now, if I leave it completely undone, like you normally would if you're on the ledges, I tend to get hung up a lot more, because then that weight makes it all the way back down to the bottom. I may pull it up, it seems to just get wrapped up more in a lot more of the limbs that are down there. So I tend to put a little bobber stop or peg, whatever, and put it on there, so I got about 6 inches, 8 inches of play there with it. The other one is going to be the Shaky Head, which I had a real hard time believing that a Shaky Head versus just a good old Texas rig worm was, it was a whole lot better. But I'll tell you what, out there on the ledges, I've got my butt kicked, and many other boaters have gotten their butts kicked by guys in the back of the boat throwing a Shaky Head. And they've been around a while, and they really came out first with, smaller weights, your 3/16 and quarters and stuff like that, and they were throwing them on spinning rods with 4 and 6 inch long finesse worms, and they throw it out there, and the reason they call it Shaky Head is they throw it out there with that spinning rod and just shake it in place. The tail will be up there floating, and they just take that rod and just kind of quiver it right there and shake that thing in place as a finesse deal. Well, out here on the ledges now, you get to the fact where these fish have seen that Texas rig, and what happens with the Texas rig is when you pull it, I'm going to leave this on its side, when you pull it, it just stays flat on the bottom. It doesn't do anything. It just goes on the bottom like that, stays flat. Well, what we found with that Shaky Head now, especially like this one here is a 1/2 ounce Picasso, and it's got that flat head to it. What will happen with that is, when that starts pulling along the bottom, anytime it hits something, it rocks up and it kicks up. Even if the tail won't float, in the water, that thing will still kick up like that, and it throws some action in that worm. And you drag it along a little bit again, like football head, and boom, it hits something, and it'll rock itself back up. And it definitely makes a big difference. So that worm just dragging flat on the bottom, you know, where that fish has got to go down and get it to where it looks like it's kicking it up and trying to get in a defensive mode. I've thrown, most of the guys are still going to throw a straight tail worm with this, but I've caught a lot of fish throwing a 10-inch ribbon tail worm with it. I don't go much bigger than a 10-inch because it's hard to find a real big hook to get into some of those other worms. But normally a straight tail, something that, you know, it's just something they don't want a whole lot more action in it. It is still a shaky head. You can still shake it in place. It's just a bigger body or a bigger weights now than what they used to use in the past. But and okay for around some light brush and stumps. You're not going to use it in a brush pile. They'll get hung up too much in a brush pile. But this is for out on your ledges, your shell beds, your gravel points and stuff. That football head will come through there perfect. It rocks up, gives it that extra action, and that's where I want to use that shaky head at. The other one is, which is not new but still kind of making its niche in the market, and that is the Freestyle type head, which is a jig head. This one here happens to be an Outcast Tackle 401K jig head. They make this straight with a hook right in the head, but this is their freestyle version of it. It's got a clip on here that you can take the hook off and put as big of a hook you want, or as small as a hook, or whatever it is that you want down there. To use. Some are made with the loop already and the hook already together. So when you buy it, you buy a 1/4 ounce with a 3/0 hook. If you buy a 3/4 ounce, it might have a 6/0 hook or something. But I really like this one where you can kind of take it on and off and do whatever you want. I can take this, have this size hook. You know, I'm using a big bite craw here. I can throw it out and have like a 3/0 hook on here with this. Have the same size jig head because I'm fishing a certain depth, but then pop this hook off and be able to put a 7/0 on with a swim bait and do the same thing. But where I use this jig head and this system is basically straight out on the ledges, and when the fish are definitely in a little bit more active mood. They may not chase down a crankbait, and they may not be chasing a swim bait moving all the time. Coming up off the bottom. But if you take this, and this is made to be drugged across the bottom the whole time, and what I'll do is I drag it with the rod, kill it, reel up the slack, drag it again. And with this design of them, a lot of them have a football head, but like with this one design, I mean, it likes to kick up, same thing, and then you get that bait moving, and it looks a lot like a crawdad down there. And you're not moving it real fast like you're moving a crankbait again. You're not moving it fast like a swim bait, but you got it down there and you just got a steady pace on it as you're doing it. And it's a real great bait. And you can put like I said, fighting craw on here. You can put a swim bait on here. You're a lizard. You can. I mean, if you put a big enough hook, you can put a big 10, 12-inch worm on here too, and do the same thing and just keep it moving. It's a great bait for when the fish are still active, but they're not chasing. They're not chasing down a crankbait or something of that fact. But this is going to be pretty much your open water stuff. This is going to be your shell beds. This is going to be your gravel points. Something with not a lot of cover on it. You're not going to get, you can get around a few stumps with this, but and I've tried, and it seems like it still likes to get hung up as it comes over the stumps, just the way it's made. It's not designed to be a brush jig or anything like that. But those are your 3 jigs that are out there in the market that you can put your different trailers and plastic trailers and stuff behind them. You've got your freestyle jigs like this. That's going to be your open water place where you can move them a little bit quicker. You're not going to get hung up a whole lot. Then you're going to have your shaky heads, which are not just a finesse jig anymore, but going to be the same place you use the freestyle. Going to be out on your shell beds, your gravel points and stuff like that. But you can also use them a little bit around some light brush, around a few stumps, and it's one of those baits that, it's a shaky head. You can throw it out there and get it in spot and just shake it when those fish just really don't want to commit to anything. You can con them into picking it up. And again, these are, you can get them now anywhere from 3/8 all the way to 3/4, 1 ounce sizes. So they're not just a little finesse jig anymore. You definitely want to tie one of those on. And again, your tried and true Texas rig. I mean, again, pretty much good everywhere around the country. Grass, brush, wood, open water. I mean, it's kind of the deal. It's been around forever. The one thing is it just, you know, like when you're out there on those ledges and you're pulling it, it just does that. It stays right along the bottom. But those are the three places I pretty much, you know, run them. Rod setups, I run pretty much all the Apollo rods, but get yourself something 7 foot to 7.4, a medium heavy action, medium heavy power with a fast action, and I run 14 to 16 pound test line on all of them. If you get, like the Texas rig, if you get where you are fishing just brush all day, or you're going to go fish brush piles, you can bump that up 17, 20, something like that if you know you're going to do that all day, but it kind of impedes on the action. So like when you get out on ledges in your open water, you don't want to get too light, but you know that 14 pound test line seems to be kind of the deal that I use most of the time. I will bump up to the 16 when need be, but obviously with the weights and stuff, that it's all going to be dictated by how deep you're fishing, if it's a windy day and stuff like that. But those are the three basic systems and kind of the 3 areas and the 3 ways that I use them, and hopefully you can employ some of that and hopefully get out and catch a few more fish, put a few more fish in the boat. So anyhow, this is Captain Brian Brown, fishinghype.com, Fishing Hype Guide Service, and this is your KentuckyLake.com tip of the week.